morning everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Morning Drives. We've got Frank and myself, Luan, here today, and we're actually doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be reviewing our own cars. This is actually how Frank and I met. We bought Lotus Exiges very close to each other, and that's how we got to know each other through the ownership experience.
Yeah, we're lucky to get these cars because these are the last ones of the Exiges. They're called the Exige Final Editions. Mine's a 420 Sport Final Edition, and Luan's one is a 390 Sport Final Edition. So today we'll quickly review our cars inside and out, and also do a bit of a drive, and just to show you what these cars are like.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, Lotus has been a brand for a long time. They started out in Formula One. Colin Chapman was an engineer, and they actually won 7 world championships when Colin Chapman was around. So they've really done well in motorsport. And his whole philosophy is add lightness, which means that you try and make the car as light and agile and as clutter-free as possible. And that means that the car will go faster, around corners, it'll accelerate faster, it'll brake better. So you improve everything in the car if you go for lightness. Now, I actually owned a Series 2 Exige before this one. The Series 1 Exige was quite rare. There was only 600 or so made. I only know of a few of them in New Zealand. And that was based on the Series 1 Elise. That was actually made for racing, and they had to make some road cars in order to go racing. But the Series 2 was a more popular car. So I had a Series 2 that was accident damaged. And in my other channel, I actually fixed it up, and I took everything apart and sort of did some mods as well. So I knew quite a lot about the brand going into this car. But the reason why I bought this one brand new is, as we said in the intro, this is the very last chance to buy a Lotus Exige or a very lightweight, cut down, road going track car basically from Lotus. Because from now on, they're actually going to sort of more sports cars, like the Emira. The Emira is very much a larger car, it's more comfortable, and it's got the same engine and all that sort of stuff, but it does add a little bit of extra weight. So that means you don't quite get the same feel as these cars. These Lotuses don't even have power steering, for example. So these cars are really super simple, really bare basic. And really driver focused. That's what it's all about. The slogan for Lotus is for the drivers. So that's exactly what it is. It's centered around the driving experience. If you're expecting it to be practical, or like you go to the supermarket with your car, or you show up at a fancy event, it's probably the wrong car for you because it's really just about driving and enjoying the drive experience.
So yeah, looking at the car, from the exterior, it's actually a very small footprint. The car is not very large. It sits very low to the ground. So this is the 420. The difference between the 420 and the 390, basically the 420 will have a bit more carbon parts. For example, the carbon front hood, and actually both got the carbon front lip. And the 420 actually has a carbon rear lid as well, comes standard with the car. And the spoiler is actually also different, 420 to 390. It's a different shape, and also it's made out of carbon as well. For my car, I actually spec'd I think it's the track package or something. It's got a kill switch and an extinguisher switch, because these cars are meant to be driven on the track. And you can see on the inside, I don't have a stereo. It's replaced by this system here. So it has a fire extinguisher button and a engine cutoff button, a power cutoff switch. That's the green one, and the extinguisher is the red one. These seats are a bit different from the 390, which Luan's got. This is full carbon seat, so you can see the carbon weave at the back. And then I believe it's thinner, so there's less padding. It's lighter, but they are actually quite comfortable though, surprisingly.
Yeah, so the air goes in from the vent at the front, like the big vent there.
Yeah.
And then it exits out through the front panel. And the radiator is actually just under this front panel here where the fans are.
Right.
So that means that the car doesn't lift when you're going fast.
So actually the air goes in from here, goes through the radiators and come out from here.
Yeah.
And,
So a common question that people ask us is, you know, because it's mid-engined, does this car have a frunk? And the answer is no, it doesn't have a frunk, because we've got all these radiators and fans and all this aero working to hold the car on the ground. So
Right.
again, that's why these Lotuses are not very practical, but it's definitely made for the driving experience primarily.
And you can see they have these arches. I believe maybe they have some aero functions as well. So direct air from the side and from the top as well. And I can open it up for you. It's quite interesting. So to open this up, you actually unclip this middle one here. There's two side clips on the side. And voila, you can just open it up like that.
Wow, look at that. And the carbon is actually all on the inside as well.
Look at that.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's so light, weighs nothing at all.
You're just really strong, Frank, that's all.
Yeah. So the rear of the car, if you look from far, it's actually looks very flat and wide. The whole shape is actually almost like a rectangle, the side. So it has a very squat down stance. It looks really good from the back.
I have to say, the biggest difference between the Series 2 that I had and the Series 3 is definitely the rear of the car, especially the facelifted final edition rear. It looks really nice. So I'm really happy that it looks much more like a sports car, like a modern sports car. Whereas the Series 2, I think, looked a little bit too much like an Elise. Whereas the Series 3s, they differentiate themselves a lot from the Elise.
Okay, Luan, do you want to show us how you get in the Lotus?
Yeah, well, it's actually not as hard as people think it is. The biggest problem is this big sill on the side of the car here, and that's the tub, the aluminium tub holding all the car together. So what you do is you put your left leg in, and then you put your butt over the seat, and then you basically fall into the car. So it's actually not as hard as people think it is. Once you do it a few times, it's pretty straightforward. You do have to hold on sometimes to the side of the seats, but otherwise it's actually not too hard at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you the final edition dash as well. So let me just turn my wheel a little bit. There we go. So I love how the graphic says Exige, and you've got the shift lights up the top there as well. So that's really cool. I'm just going to turn the aircon off. And then you've got a big rev count right around the edge of the screen, and then you've got your speedo there in the middle. What you can do is you can actually turn it to sport mode. So there's a whole bunch of driving modes over the side here. So that's the engine stop-start button, the sport mode, and then the race mode. And then these are the lights that you can turn on with the car as well. So if I press the sport mode button and hold it down, it'll change into the sport mode display, where the rev count is going horizontal like this. And so it kind of chases all the way up to red line over there, and then the speedo is still in the middle. Now what's interesting is this is actually an AIM dash, and I had an AIM dash in my Series 2 Exige, but the problem with this one is that it is a little bit more locked down. So in theory you can actually plug in a reversing camera and also a GPS module, and the hardware is actually even in there to be able to plug that in. But unfortunately at the moment it's really difficult to do that. The GPS module, you have to buy the right version of the GPS module, and the reversing camera we can't get working yet. So hopefully AIM will come up with an update or something that will help to support us, because having a reversing camera for this car would be really handy.
And I think these digital dials only come with the final edition cars, right?
That's correct, yes. So that's again another benefit of getting a final edition car, is that you get this digital display, which is really modern and really up to date, and really makes the car feel like, you know, a 2022 car or 2021
give it
car.
a bit of a modern car look and feel.
Yeah. Now, the big difference between my car and Frank's car, and he's probably going to do this soon, is I've got a button down the side here, and that button allows me to open and close the exhaust valve. Because normally the exhaust valve only opens at 4,500 RPM, just to make sure the exhaust is under a lot of pressure. And they took out that button in the final editions, probably because of European laws or something like that. So I've retrofitted the button in, the wiring harness and everything is all there, so you don't even need to do any wiring. You literally just have to bite the button and plug it in. So we can give you a quick demo of that as well. So normally, if you rev it, you get a little bit of noise, but not much. And then if you rev it over 4,500, that's when it really opens the exhaust. But if you press the exhaust valve button, it tells you that the exhaust opens, and then it's loud all the time. So that's the benefit of adding the exhaust button, is that you don't have to rev it to 4,500 in order to hear the exhaust. It's actually a really comfortable place to be once you get inside, and there's actually a bit more room than you expect in the car like this. One of the problems is that there's not a lot of room between the passengers, so if you're sitting beside someone, you definitely have to get very cozy to them. So that's something to keep in mind if you do have passengers in here. So let's talk about the vents in the car. So we've got 4 air vents, and this is how you open and close them. You can just use your hand to open and close, and then they move around like this as well. So they're quite flexible and quite handy. Our cars actually do have aircon as well, which is a big plus, because especially when it gets hot in summer, you have the engine sitting right behind you. It's really warm. So having aircon, and it actually works really well in the Series 3 Exiges, is a huge advantage. So the other things that we want to talk about, there's the open shifter mechanism that you can see, the exposed mechanism. So this is a huge change from the Series 2s and the earlier Series 3s. You can see the mechanical workings of the shifter. It's all made out of metal, made out of aluminium probably. So it's really sturdy, it feels great in the hand, it makes a great noise as well when you're going into gear and out of gear. So this is a huge advantage if you have a Series 3. And you can even get this in the Elise as well. So if you get a Series 3 Elise, this is much better than the previous generations.
Yeah.
Alright everyone, so another really special feature of our Lotuses is you can actually see a lot of aluminium exposed in the interior of these cars, and you can see the epoxy that holds all the aluminium and the chassis together. So that was really advanced back in the day when they first had the Series 1 Lotus Exige, the bonded extruded aluminium chassis. There's aluminium kind of all the way through the car, so you can see the aluminium in the shifter, the aluminium here on the dash, and also the aluminium door hinges. These are really meaty, nice looking door hinges, aren't they? They look fantastic.